Hi, everybody. My name is Farron Charlton, and I'd like to welcome you to our discussion today. We're going to be talking for just a few minutes about EL education and structured English immersion in the language development approach that I've put together. And because we're all here in Arizona, this is the state that I wanted to talk about mostly. I have developed presentations for other states, but today we're going to focus on just Arizona. I'm very excited to walk you through Arizona's approach to supporting English learners, and we'll look at how the state defines English learners. We'll look at what structured English immersion looks like, and we'll look at how the language development approach helps guide instruction. So whether you're new to this or just looking to deepen your understanding, I hope that this presentation gives you some practical insights that you can use in your own classroom. So let's get started. So let's start with the basics. And looking at Arizona's definition of an English learner, it says a student whose primary language, home language, is not English and who does not score proficient on AZELLA. So how does Arizona define an English learner? I just read that for you. So it's any student whose primary home language isn't English and who doesn't score proficient on the AZELLA, which is Arizona's English language proficiency assessment, as you guys all know. So that definition helps determine who qualifies for EL services, and it also sets the stage for how we support them. So that's just something to keep in mind as we move forward here, and it's just a really good definition of what an EL learner is here in Arizona. Arizona has a beautifully diverse EL population. We have over 80,000 students across pre-K through our uh, grade 12 students. And Spanish is the most common home language, but we also see languages like Navajo, Somali, and Vietnamese here in the state of Arizona. This diversity reminds us that English learners aren't a monolith. They're not just one group of people or uh, one group of students from a particular race or culture. Each student brings a unique linguistic and cultural background to the classroom. And because we have such a unique blend of students here in Arizona, it really gives us excitement and broadens our horizons on what an EL learner looks like with those different people groups that we have and the different groups of students. Structured English immersion here, SEI as we like to call it, is daily English language development. That's usually between 100 and 120 minutes, so a little over an hour to up to 2 hours. The focus is on English proficiency through explicit instruction, and it's different from sheltered instruction, which integration, content, and language, and those are important parts of structured English immersion. It's focused on daily English language development. As I said, it's usually about 100 to 120 minutes. And what makes SEI different from sheltered instruction is that it's much more targeted. Sheltered instruction blends language and content, and while SEI zeroes in on building English proficiency through explicit teaching. So instead of teaching a broad range of topics or just maybe spending time with our EL students on one particular subject, it's actually zeroing in on that English development piece and how critical that is for our English learners and making sure that they get that and they're making steady progress in that as they're moving forward so that they can gain better understanding as we're moving um, forward with our other areas of our curriculum as well. Arizona's language development approach is built on four key principles, and I have them listed for you here. First, it's asset based. So we recognize and build on what students already know. We're testing students at that stage. We're figuring out what they know, and then we're targeting the learning and the curriculum for English language development based off of those surveys and those tests. Second, it integrates language and content. Third, it includes targeted instruction, as I mentioned. And fourth, it emphasizes assessment and feedback. And Walkie and Heritage have a great quote from their resource. They put it in a great way. They say that language development is inseparable from meaningful engagement in content learning. And that's just a powerful reminder that language grows best when it's tied to real thinking. When we're giving students the opportunity to learn curriculum as well as learn um, English, it's helping them learn both things at the same time. And it's also enhancing their ability to learn English because they're seeing words used throughout the curriculum and throughout our lessons. And it gives them a greater understanding of the words that they're learning and just a greater grasp of the language as well. When we're talking about student agency here, student agency is all about giving learners a sense of ownership. Um, it's when our English learners feel like their voice matters and they're more likely to take risks, they're more likely to ask questions, and they're much more likely to grow in their English language development when they have taken ownership of it and we have some student agency there. Agency supports self-determination and confidence. And so it's a key part of culturally responsive teaching. We want our students to feel empowered and not just compliant. We want them to to feel like they're in control of their learning and they have some control over what they're learning. And we also want them to feel confident in their learning. And we don't want them to just be compliant with our English language development and those skills, but we want them to actually take ownership of that and feel excited about learning those types of things. It builds confidence and motivation, and it also supports culturally responsive teaching, which is a huge part of teaching across the country and especially here in Arizona. So let's take a look real quickly at some SEI models here in Arizona. For our newcomers, it involves intensive support for our recent arrivals. So we're drilling, really drilling down on those English language and English development lessons with them. For pullout, where English language development instruction is outside the mainstream classroom. So we're taking them out of our main classrooms and we're maybe putting them with an aide or we're putting them with another teacher, and we're giving them the opportunity outside the classroom to learn those skills and to build on their English development. And then um, another model that we see is a 2 hour SEI model, and that's just a daily ELD block where they focus specifically on their English language development for a 2 hour period. And then we also have our 50-50 dual language, and so they're spending half day in English, half day in partnerships, uh, partner language, and we're moving on from there. So to determine eligibility, Arizona uses a two-step process, as you guys have probably heard about. First, we see that families fill out a home language survey. That's a survey that we send home, or it's maybe a paper survey that we mail out, or it might be done through email or through a web page. Um, Something that we can send out and get feedback on to figure out where our students are at with their English language development. If a language other than English is listed on those surveys, then the student takes the AZLLA, that's our test, and then this assessment helps place um, students in the right program and is also used for reassessment. So as they're moving forward, we're maybe giving them the AZELLA again, just to figure out how they're progressing and where they're at in the program. And so it's just a great tool for tracking progress. And that's how we figure out program eligibility for our EL students. As far as accommodations go for the AZELLA, accommodations are designed to level the playing field for our English language learners. They include things like extended time, simplified directions, and small group settings. So we're figuring out where each of our students are at, and we're figuring out which of those things they need. Maybe it's one of them, maybe it's a couple of them, but we might be giving them extended time. We might be Um, refining our instructions on certain assignments so that it gives them a clearer direction. And but it might also involve putting them within a small group, um, with students who are very strong in English language, and so that they're getting a better grasp of that, and they're seeing how the language is used. So these supports help ensure that students are being assessed on their knowledge, not just on their English skills. So it's giving us a good snapshot of where they're at in their learning and their knowledge, not just in their English development as well. It's also designed to ensure equitable access, and so it's giving us the opportunity to make sure that every student is seen and heard and listened to, and that every student is getting the attention that they deserve and that they need in our classrooms. As far as parent guardian rights in Arizona when it comes to ESL placement, parents and guardians have important rights. When it comes to EL services, they can actually refuse placement or assessment. It's something that we definitely will recommend for students that we see who have English language deficiencies. Maybe it's something that we see if they're transferring from another school or they're coming from another state, or maybe something that we have observed in our classroom. But we must get parent permission before we even give out those assessments, and before we even um, get them paired up with English language services and figuring out what will work best for them. They can refuse placement or assessment, and they must be kept informed about their child's progress. So if they decide to move forward with the English language development program that we like to put them in, we must keep them informed during that entire process, just to tell them how their student is doing and what we're doing with their student. It's our job to make sure that our families understand these rights and that we communicate in ways that are accessible and respectful. So many of our EL students come from homes that where English is not the first language, and so we need to make those we need to make our communications accessible in languages other than English, and make sure that we're keeping our parents informed and we're giving them uh, the opportunity to get our full attention and understand what the program is and what we're wanting to do with their student. So again, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Arizona's approach to EL instruction is grounded in research, and it's designed to meet students where they are. That is my goal, certainly as a teacher, um, and I'd hope it would be your goal as well. If you have any questions or you want to share some of your own experiences with your EL students, I'd love to hear them. Let's keep learning together. And I'd love to take some questions from you guys now if you have any. And thanks again for being here.